Welcome to Mind Research Rewired. We unveil scientific truths to transform confusion into clear thinking. Unlock a sharper, more effective you based on proven research. Subscribe now and elevate your life.
So, have you ever had one of those moments? You walk into a room and instantly, almost like unconsciously, you sense the tension, or maybe feel a shift in the mood.
Oh, absolutely. Or you're stuck on a problem and then bang, the solution just pops into your head.
Exactly. That feeling. We rely on those rapid insights all the time, don't we?
We do.
But the big question, maybe, is how reliable is that lightning fast intuition? Especially, when things really matter.
That's a perfect lead-in, actually, because it hits the core of our deep dive today, which is all about how we think, how our brains handle information, and what it really means to be rational.
Right. So our mission today, yours and mine, is to kind of unpack why our brains often take these super efficient shortcuts. Shortcuts that can sometimes be, a bit misleading. Mm-hmm. And we're drawing on some really fascinating insights into human cognition, stuff that seriously challenges those classic economic theories.
You mean the ones that assume we're all perfectly rational actors, always maximizing our utility with flawless consistency?
Yeah, those ones. The Homo economicus' idea.
And look, models have to simplify reality to be useful, that's a given, but they start to really break down, when their predictions are way off from what people actually do.
Okay.
So the source material we're looking at today, it isn't trying to throw out human rationality completely. Actually, it stresses that without some rationality, predicting anything is impossible.
So it's more nuanced.
Exactly. It aims to add nuance to that idea of rationality, showing its limits, its quirks, its powerful tendencies. It's fascinating stuff.
Okay, let's dive in. A good starting point seems to be this core distinction from the source. System 1 and System 2 thinking.
That's the foundation. Think of it as like fast and slow thinking. It roughly maps onto subconscious and conscious processes.
Got it. So System 1, that's the fast one?
That's the fast one. Automatic, mostly effortless, operates outside your conscious control. Think about understanding a simple sentence like this one.
Okay.
Or how an experienced driver just reacts to something sudden on the road. No conscious thought involved, it feels like.
It's involuntary, right?
Yeah.
You can't just decide not to understand English if you hear it.
Precisely. And even though there are complex computations happening under the hood, it feels incredibly quick, no mental strain.
So System 1 is basically, it's our brain's autopilot mode.
That's a great way to put it.
A huge chunk of our daily life, our decisions, our responses, they're just supplied automatically by habits, by these immediate intuitions.
Mm-hmm. It gives you those instant reactions, and honestly, most of the time, they're perfectly adequate for just getting through the day.
Okay, so that's System 1. What about System 2, the slow one?
Right. System 2. This is your slow, deliberate, effortful thinking. It really demands your attention. Conscious deliberation.
And it kind of hogs your mental resources when it's active.
Totally. It tends to exclude other kinds of thinking. And you can actually see it working physiologically. Your pupils dilate, heart rate goes up, blood pressure. It's measurable when you're concentrating hard.
Like doing mental math, that classic example, like 17 times 24.
Exactly. You can almost feel your brain kicking into gear, right? You're focusing, holding numbers in your working memory, manipulating them.
Yeah. And most of us, with effort, can manage 2 digits times 2 digits in our head.
But try 3 digits times 3 digits.
Forget it. That's usually where my cognitive limits hit hard.
Mine too. So the interplay is really key here. System 1 is the default. It's always on, running in the background.
Okay.
But when it hits something it can't handle automatically or a task needs more focus, System 2 reluctantly steps in.
Reluctantly.
Well, it's always associated with significant effort. It burns mental energy.
Ah, okay.
And here's a crucial bit. If System 1 already offered up a quick, intuitive answer, it takes conscious effort, sometimes a lot of it, for System 2 to challenge that initial response.
So if System 1 is running the show most of the time,
Yeah.
are we just constantly battling our own intuition? How much control do we actually have?
That's a really critical question because while System 1 is great for basic survival, quick reactions, a lot of daily stuff, Our intuitions aren't always perfect, especially not in, the complex modern social world.
Things get messy there.
Very messy. There are just too many variables, too many unique situations in our social lives for intuition to have perfect historical data or genetic programming for every scenario.
Right, which leads to potential pitfalls.
Definitely. And one of the biggest ones our fast thinking falls into is something the source calls what you see is all there is. WYSIAD for short.
WYSIAD. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It means our fast thinking system one builds the best story it can using only the information that's immediately available right there in front of it.
So it doesn't actively look for missing pieces.
Nope. It doesn't pause and think, what relevant information am I not seeing right now? It just works with what's there.
Okay, that seems potentially problematic.
It is. And what makes it worse is that System 1 doesn't weigh information by how important it actually is objectively. It weighs it by how vivid it is, how easily it comes to mind, how compelling it feels.
So the feeling of certainty is the trap.
That's the trick. Our brains are incredibly good at making us feel totally certain and confident about a story, even if it's built on really limited data.
Wow.
That feeling of certainty, even based on an incomplete picture, is super powerful.
And that feeds right into our love of stories, coherent narratives.
Exactly. We humans have this strong tendency, this preference for stories that make sense, that have a clear logical structure. They're just easier to remember, right? The pieces connect through logic, association.
Makes sense.
But, and this is crucial, the source really hammers this home. Conviction, that feeling, what comes through to the mind by natural intuition, that's subjective. It's a feeling. It should not be confused with objective truth.
And challenging a conviction, especially an emotionally charged one, is really hard.
Incredibly difficult. Why do you think that is, though? Why are we so drawn to these narrative, even potentially flawed ones?
Deficiency. Our brains like the easy route.
That's a big part of it. Narratives offer a quick, easy-to-digest framework, which also helps explain some, frankly, egregious errors we make when dealing with probability.
Okay, like what?
Well, think about how vividness just trumps probability sometimes. These spectacular, dramatic, but rare events, a plane crash, maybe a shark attack.
Things that grab headlines.
Exactly. They engage our imaginations so intensely that they feel highly plausible. And we easily confuse that feeling of plausibility with actual statistical probability.
Leading to misplaced fears.
Totally. A miscalibration of risk. Disproportionate fear of rare things while maybe downplaying common mundane dangers that are statistically far riskier.
Like heart disease versus terrorism, perhaps.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Terrorism, for instance, absolutely capitalizes on this availability heuristic, this vividness bias.
Okay, vividness overrides probability. What else?
There's also baseline neglect. We often just ignore crucial background statistics, the baseline rate, when we're given specific, vivid details about a particular case.
You mentioned a taxi example earlier.
Right, the classic blue-green cab problem. If you're told, say, 80% of cabs in a city are blue company cabs, but a witness says the cab in accident was green and the witness is 80% reliable.
People tend to just focus on the witness's 80% reliability.
Often, yes. They underweight or ignore the 80% baseline fact about the cab company distribution, unless...
Unless what?
Unless you frame the baseline differently.
Yeah.
If you tell them not just that 80% of cabs are blue, but that 80% of all cab accidents involve blue cabs.
Then people pay attention.
Yes, because now the statistic seems to imply an active agent, a cause, rather than just being some inert background number. It feels more relevant.
That's subtle but powerful. It changes how we weigh the information.
It really does. And then there's the conjunction fallacy, often illustrated by the Linda problem.
Linda. Tell me about Linda.
Okay, so people are given a description of Linda. She's bright, outspoken, concerned with discrimination and social justice, participated in anti-nuclear demonstrations, stuff like that.
Okay, sounds like a typical activist type from college, maybe.
Right. Then people are asked, which is more probable? A, Linda's a bank teller, or B, Linda is a bank teller and is active in the feminist movement.
Logically, A has to be more probable, right? Because B is a subset of A. All feminist bank tellers are bank tellers.
Logically, yes, absolutely. But what do most people choose?
Let me guess. B. Because it fits the description better. It creates a more coherent story.
Bingo. People consistently judge the more specific, detailed scenario, feminist bank teller, as more probable than the broader category, bank teller, that logically includes it.
Wow.
Our intuition isn't looking for the most logically probable option. It seeks the most likely option among those presumed mutually exclusive, as the source puts it. It goes for plausibility and coherence over strict logic.
And the source says even smart people fall for this.
Oh, yeah. Even people trained in statistics can be seduced by the more plausible narrative. It's a very strong bias.
That really is fascinating, how easily a better-sounding story can override basic logic. And this kind of leads us towards the inside view and optimism bias, doesn't it?
It does. We tend to experience our own lives, our projects from the inside. We see them as unique snowflakes.
Right. We judge our progress based on our own feelings, our internal milestones.
And we largely ignore or downplay external comparisons, baseline data, what happened to others in similar situations.
Which often makes us overly optimistic.
Very often, especially when starting something new, like a business. The objective statistics for startup success might be grim.
But my idea is different. My team is amazing.
Exactly. That's the inside view talking. But, there's an upside to this optimism.
Pieces go in.
It fuels perseverance. The source has this funny line, something like, if sperms knew the odds against their success, surely none of them would embark on the epic journey.
Huh. Okay, fair point.
It contributes to that feeling of maybe not immortality, but certainly an expectation that good things will happen to us. Wealth, fame, success. It helps us face a world full of challenges.
So it's a double-edged sword then.
Yeah.
This bias helps us persist, but also makes us kind of bad at judging risk.
Precisely. Which brings us back to a really counterintuitive idea. Given all these ways our human judgment can fail, simple mechanical algorithms often do a better job. They outperform human judgment in many areas.
Ooh, that's going to rub some people the wrong way. Trusting a mindless formula over expert intuition.
It absolutely goes against the grain for many people. It feels almost insulting to human expertise.
But what are the actual advantages? Why would a simple formula win?
Well, think about it. An algorithm forces you, first, to systematically collect relevant information. It counteracts that WISEOD bias, that tendency to just use what's easily available.
So it forces data collection. What else?
Second, it checks our reliance on subjective weights. That feeling that this piece of data is super important just because it's vivid or confirms our hunch. An algorithm uses predefined objective weights.
Takes the gut feeling out of it.
Right. And third, because it usually spits out a clear numerical prediction or classification, it guards against that seductive tendency to weave a compelling but maybe inaccurate narrative around the data.
So it's more disciplined, less prone to storytelling.
Exactly. And the examples are pretty striking.
Like the wine one.
Yeah, the wine quality prediction. A simple formula based on weather, rainfall in winter, temperature in the growing season, harvest rainfall predicted the price and quality of Bordeaux vintages better than traditional expert wine tasters.
That must really stick in the craw of connoisseurs.
You bet. Or think about clinical diagnoses in medicine. Study after study shows that the diagnostic accuracy of individual clinicians relying on intuition and experience is often discouragingly low. Yeah. And simple algorithms, checklists, scoring systems based on specific symptoms and test results often perform better. That's a big reason why quantitative tests are playing a bigger and bigger role in modern medicine. We're moving away from just relying on the old wisdom of the family doctor.
Okay, so algorithms are good, but does that mean human intuition is just worthless? Is there no place for expert judgment?
No, it's not that black and white. This source describes a kind of compromise, a nuanced view. Professional intuition can be really valuable
If what?
if it's honed over a long period of time with consistent, immediate, and clear feedback.
Ah, like learning a skill.
Exactly. Think about learning to drive a car or ride a bike or play chess even. You make a move, you get immediate feedback. Did the car turn smoothly? Did you stay balanced? Was that a good chess move?
Right, you learn from constant trial and error.
Precisely. That kind of experience basically develops a highly refined internal algorithm through countless repetitions and feedback loops. It's intuition, but it's intuition built on a solid foundation of real-world data.
So the key is the quality and the speed of the feedback loop.
That's the crucial factor.
Which means, where does this break down? Where is intuition less reliable?
It breaks down in professions or situations where the feedback is delayed, or it's ambiguous, or it's complex and intermittent.
Like political forecasting.
Perfect example. Political pundits. Their success, their visibility often depends more on how confident and assertive they sound, not on whether their predictions actually come true months or years later. The feedback loop is weak and slow.
Or maybe stock market experts, financial gurus.
Another great example. Unless they have genuine insider information or they're so influential they can actually move the market, the predictive performance of most financial experts is often disappointingly weak. Statistically, often no better than random chance.
Ouch. So the average investor trying to pick winning stocks based on expert advice is
Often like a gambler hoping for a lucky streak, unfortunately.
I saw this with a friend's startup, actually. They just kept pouring money in, couldn't cut their losses, even when the numbers looked bad. That inside view again, maybe?
Very likely. And it connects to CEO performance, too. It's often really hard to tell how much of a company's success or failure is down to the CEO's skill versus just industry trends, market conditions, or plain luck. It's like judging a general in battle. So many factors are outside their control.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But of course, as the source points out, many of these experts, the clinicians, the pundits, the financial advisors, they have a strong vested interest in maintaining the illusion of their superior intuition, right? Their livelihood depends on it.
True. Okay, so we've covered the two systems, the biases, the algorithms.
Yeah.
What about other psychological factors and decisions?
Right. Let's shift gears a bit. We need to talk about some psychological twists that go beyond just formal probability. And these aren't necessarily irrational in the strict sense. The source frames it more as a refined version of rationality.
Refined how?
Rationality defined as the consistent pursuit of your own priorities. It's about consistency and how you pursue what you value, not necessarily judging the objective goodness of those values themselves.
Okay. So it's about internal consistency. What's a key example?
Loss aversion is a huge one. It's almost universally accepted in behavioral economics. Put simply, losses hurt more than equivalent gains feel good.
We feel the pain of losing $100 more intensely than the pleasure of finding $100.
Exactly. Which makes us generally risk-averse when it comes to gains. We'd rather take a sure, smaller win than gamble for a larger, uncertain one.
Makes sense. We lock in the gain.
And here's the twist, the opposite is true for losses. People become risk-seeking to avoid a sure loss. Meaning they're more likely to take a gamble, even a risky one with potentially larger losses, if the alternative is accepting a definite guaranteed loss right now.
That explains the throwing good money after bad thing you mentioned.
Precisely. You've invested heavily in a project, it's clearly failing. The rational move is to cut your losses. But the prospect of accepting that sure loss is so painful
that you gamble by investing more, hoping to somehow turn it around even if the odds are against it.
Exactly. You become risk-seeking to avoid crystallizing the loss.
That's powerful. And it makes you wonder, if this applies to money, what about bigger things? Like the length of your life.
It's a fascinating thought experiment. Would you choose a guaranteed lifespan of, say, 80 years? Or take a gamble, maybe a 50-50 shot at living to 100 or only making it to 70?
Oof. That's tough. The sure 80 feels safe, but the chance at 100, still the risk of only 70. It highlights that deep aversion to a guaranteed loss, even a loss of future potential years.
It really does. And this ties into framing effects, too.
How so?
How you frame or word-equivalent choices can drastically change how people respond. A proposal presented one way gets accepted, presented slightly differently, it gets rejected, even if the underlying outcomes are identical.
So context is everything. You can't judge a proposal in isolation.
Absolutely not. The framing changes the reference point. It highlights gains versus losses differently.
Think about, like, buying a lottery ticket.
Good example.
The source mentions this, right? The small cost of the ticket might be worth the pleasant thought of potentially winning, even if you know the rational expected value is terrible.
Right. You don't really expect to win, so when you inevitably don't, it's just a minor disappointment. Maybe not even that. You paid for a little daydream.
But imagine if lottery tickets were free. But every time you didn't win, you had to pay a penalty equal to the ticket price.
Ooh, that feels different.
Totally different. Suddenly, not winning feels like an actual, tangible loss, even though the net financial outcome is the same as buying the ticket and losing.
It highlights the difference between accepting a voluntary cost for potential enjoyment versus feeling an involuntary loss imposed on you.
Yeah. Okay, the psychological stuff is deep. But you mentioned something earlier. Maybe the most profound part of the source.
Yes. I think for me at least, perhaps the most interesting part, with implications that go way beyond economics into philosophy, even existential questions, is the distinction between the experiencing self and the remembering self.
Okay. The experiencing self versus the remembering self. Break that down for us.
So, the experiencing self, that's you right now, living moment by moment. It's the self that's in direct contact with reality. It feels the warmth of the sun, the boredom of waiting in line, the joy of laughter. It lives purely in the present.
Okay. The self that lives life.
Right. Then there's the remembering self. This self doesn't live moments, it constructs a narrative about those moments. It's the storyteller, the record keeper.
The one that looks back and decides if an experience was good or bad overall.
Exactly. It forms coherent stories about your past, judges your life based on memories, highlights, lowlights, and overall satisfaction. It's the self that anticipates future regret and influences your current decisions based on how you think you'll remember them.
Wow. Okay. So we have the self living now and the self looking back later.
And this distinction raises a really fundamental question. Whose life is it anyway? Which self matters more?
Meaning, is it more important to maximize happiness in the moment for the experiencing self?
Or is it more important to construct a life story that the remembering self can look back on with satisfaction, maybe with no regrets on your deathbed?
That's a heavy question.
It is. The remembering self, because it deals in narratives, values coherence, it sees life as a sequence of episodes that should form a meaningful story. Worth gets tied to pleasurable recollection.
Which can lead to this idea of living an exemplary life, almost like you're performing for an audience.
Yeah, for an external reader, which might just be your future remembering self, or maybe even how you imagine others will see your life story. You want a gripping biography.
And does this connect to collecting things, experiences?
Absolutely. The source links this to what it calls the mania for collection. Not just physical objects like stamps or art, but also collecting experiences, ticking boxes, gathering happy moments.
Like taking photos constantly on vacation instead of just being there.
That could be part of it. You're gathering evidence, material for future recollection. You're effectively investing in future memories, even though you know you can't literally take the photos or the memories with you when you're gone.
The pleasure might be more in the anticipated recollection than the moment itself sometimes.
The source suggests exactly that. The remembering self holds a lot of sway.
What about unpleasant experiences like pain? How does this distinction play out there?
It's particularly stark with pain. Pain primarily belongs to the experiencing self, to the actual moment.
Okay.
Your remembering self can only recollect past pain. It can't re-experience the sensation directly. And how it remembers pain can be, well, illogical.
How so?
Pain that you suspect might be harmful, even if it's low level, can become intolerable because of the meaning attached to it. But pain you know is for your own good, like during physical therapy, might be accepted more easily. The source says something like, all torture is fundamentally mental.
It's about the story we tell ourselves about the pain.
Yes. And memory of pain is heavily influenced by the peak intensity and how it ends the peak end rule. It doesn't average the pain over the duration.
So a longer period of moderate pain might be remembered more favorably than a shorter, more intense spike, especially if the longer one ended gently.
Counterintuitively, yes.
Yeah.
The remembering self summary doesn't follow simple arithmetic. The overall narrative and key moments dominate.
This is really bending my brain. What about time itself? How do the two selves perceive time?
The paradox of time. For the experiencing self, especially during unpleasant or boring moments, time can seem to drag on forever, painfully slow.
We've all felt that waiting for something.
Right. But for the remembering self, looking back, especially as we age, we often feel that life is too short, that time goes by way too quickly.
Yeah.
And there's another twist. When you look back at a distant event, if it feels like it happened a very long time ago, it gives you a satisfying sense of having lead a long, full life during the interval. But if a chronologically distant event feels like it just happened yesterday, the remembering self feels cheated, as if precious years were just vanished, squandered somehow.
Wow. So the feeling of duration and memory is crucial to our sense of a life well lived.
It seems to be. Which leads to this powerful metaphor the source uses.
Yeah.
Life as capital. A depletable fund of time that you can only spend, never add to.
Okay.
As you get older, your capital of remaining time decreases, but your capital of accumulated experience increases.
Right.
Towards the end, each remaining slice of time, each day, Each hour becomes proportionally more precious relative to the diminishing total. But maybe what you gain from that slice of time feels proportionally less significant compared to the vastness of your accumulated experience.
So the source says you pay more and more for getting less and less.
That's the poignant conclusion, yeah.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground here.
We really have, from the two basic systems of thinking.
System 1 fast, System 2 slow.
To the systematic biases and heuristics that affect our intuition, like WYSEAD and baseline neglect.
Then the surprising effectiveness of simple algorithms in overcoming some of those biases.
With psychological twists like loss aversion and framing.
And finally, this really profound distinction between the self that lives life moment to moment, the experiencing self, and the self that tells the story afterwards, the remembering self.
It's a lot to take in, but hopefully understanding these concepts can, genuinely help you. Help all of us.
How so?
Well, maybe make slightly better decisions, be a bit more critical of information, question our own immediate certainty sometimes.
And maybe even prompt a reevaluation of how we approach our own lives, our own happiness. It's about understanding our own minds better, isn't it?
Exactly. Building a more conscious relationship with how we think and remember.
So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. Thinking about this difference, this split between the experiencing self and the remembering self.
Yeah.
What changes, if any, might you consider making today? Thinking about how your future self, that remembering self, will look back, not just on big achievements, but on the quality of the moments lived.
That's the core question, isn't it? What does that distinction truly mean for how you define a good life? Does happiness in the now outweigh a satisfying story later, or vice versa? Or is there a way to serve both?
Something to definitely ponder.
Yes, that is something for all of us to think about. We have come to the end of today's deep dive. If you like the content of our podcast and learned something useful, please subscribe to support our channel. We will continue to unveil cutting-edge scientific papers to bring clarity to your thinking and elevate your life. Thank you.